So President Biden's racking up gaffes since announcing his re-election campaign.
God save the Queen, man.
Let's go lick the world.
Ban on transgender Americans.
Has Vladimir Putin been weakened by recent events?
It's hard to tell, but he's clearly losing the war in Iraq.
Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here.
Yeah, he went somewhere. So the liberal media thinks maybe it's time for a tune-up. A new Politico piece arguing why Democrats should primary Biden. Quote, President Joe Biden needs a primary opponent who can prepare him for the 2024 general election. Somebody who can make him prove that he can still run the traps and beat whichever Republican he faces. Biden already has Democrat challengers like RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, but they've got some other names in mind, like Gavin Newsom, Beto O'Rourke, and Elizabeth Warren. As the piece puts it, quote, just as any heavyweight under the age of 75 with the pugilistic skills to put the current champion through a hammering 12 rounds. Tom, I know you're a big boxing fan. You know, you're big on that.
I'm a pugilist.
Tell me about this idea that maybe RFK Jr. isn't that person. Like, I don't understand that.
I mean, he is that person. They want to ignore him, though. They're pretending he's not a competitor. They're faking his numbers. I remember this last poll. They came out and he said he had 1.5% in New York. They fudged those numbers. He's got a lot of support out there, and he doesn't have just support on the left. He has a lot of freedom-loving people on the right who kind of like some of what he has to say as well. But I do think, I agree with this, the premise of the article, that it makes you stronger. I remember when I was a kid and Ted Kennedy ran against Jimmy Carter. And then Jimmy Carter defeated him, and then he becomes more powerful as a result. And then Ted Kennedy has to suck it up at the convention and say, I support the president. And so, you know, if you win and you win against a tough opponent, it's going to make you stronger. So in that way, I agree with that.
Kellyanne, we talk about polls. One of the things that always doesn't sit well with me is that Democrats love to point out that President Trump was basically, you know, there was no primary, no debates for him going into 2020. But what they always seem to overlook, and I've got one poll here I can quote, it isn't quite a direct parallel, but President Trump never had under, I think, 94% approval rating from Republicans. President Biden struggles with that. 68% of registered voters have a major to moderate concern about Biden having the necessary mental and physical health to be president. So I don't think those are very easily compared.
That's even worse than an approval rating, because that is a direct indictment of his ability to do the job, to function mentally and physically. And that's a mainstream media poll that came from ABC last month. Joey, first of all, I don't think these are gaffes. I think this is Joe Biden. I think he mumbles, stumbles, and bumbles through the presidency. Everybody sees it. Yeah. And I think pieces like this, I would call them Operation Oust Kamala. I'd be very worried if I were her. Her approval ratings are at an all-time low. It is not racism and sexism. It is eyesight and hearing. We're paying attention to her. She inspires no confidence. She displays no competence. She doesn't seem to even want to do this job. She has shed over 23 or 25 senior staffers. Imagine that you're working for the first female vice president of color, and you don't want that job anymore. They basically all left, including the, if not especially the communications directors. But here's the problem with the whole premise. He's not going to get a primary competitor if he doesn't have primary debates. The head of the DNC, who's never really around, but he popped up to say, Jamie Harrison, to say there will be no debates. Competition in 2020 helped Joe Biden because he was way below in the pack. He didn't win Iowa, he didn't win New Hampshire. Competition would hurt him in 2024, but it's helping Trump. For all the talk about Trump is dead in the water after the midterms, he's not electable. The competition, the bigger the field, the more it helps Trump. The bigger the field, the more it hurts Biden.
Well, Judge, to that point, we have Pete Buttigieg, who seems to kind of really want to be president one day. We have Gavin Newsom, who I believe is campaigning to be president. Is there a bigger field there for Democrats to consider, and why are they sticking with Biden?
Gavin Newsom is in Idaho. Okay, Gavin Newsom is proposing gun control amendments to the Constitution. Gavin Newsom already has his game plan out there. You know, he's got his hair slicked back and he's thrown his jacket over his shoulder. I mean, he's got the whole thing down. down. If I were Kamala Harris or anyone else, I would, Kamala in particular, I very much worry about. Look, as far as Buttigieg goes, the guy's been a failure. Everybody knows it. All you have to do is go to an airport. All you have to do is think about Palestine, Ohio. The guy can't even show up. I don't know who's blowing smoke in his ears or telling him that he's got any shot at being the president. But as for Joe Biden, look, the bottom line is this. Everybody knows Joe Biden has severe limitations. Everybody knows the guy's 80 years old. He'll be 82 if he's elected president again. And, you know, his limitations are very serious. She is a heartbeat away from being president. The two of them are a disaster. And I think that it's good for the Democrat Party to stop being so dictatorial, totalitarian with themselves as they were with the rest of the country when they had to lock us down and tell us to do this and tell us what to eat and tell us who can live in terms of cows got to go. You can't have a hamburger. I'm sick of all of them telling us what to do. They ought to make a decision that it's time for the Democrats to go out there like everybody else and debate, especially Joe Biden, who America is concerned about. Any guy who says that Putin's not doing so well in Iraq and said it twice, the night before and then the next day that we have him on tape. This guy is not capable of being the president.
He's got a lot of transgender support,
Richard,
though.
are articles like this political article and things like Gavin Newsom out campaigning the way he is, are those evidence that the Democrat Party's looking at this option, or is this much to do about nothing?
I think it's much to do with nothing. I think it's clear that the author of this piece is probably not in the room because I think any of those individuals are probably in mock debates with the president before he debates likely Donald Trump, the GOP nominee.
You're saying the ones they called and said could
there's mock debates all the time. Kellyanne Conway's been in them. I've been in them where you bring two candidates come in and you mock this debate before they go to the real debate on the stage. And it's very clear that whoever the GOP nominee is, Joe Biden will debate them. But look, I think you have to look at the president's overall record, right? And Kellyanne Conway would also tell you that for weeks and weeks and weeks, Donald Trump tried to get an infrastructure bill passed. Joe Biden happened to get it done. And being objectively, any president, whether it was Donald Trump, whether it was Barack Obama in their first term, they would have killed for Joe Biden's legislative record. And he has it.
We've got to wrap this up. I'll agree with you that he's been very successful at getting things passed, but the results of those things are not
Trillions of dollars.
popular. So
With
that's what you have
Republicans.
to look at. All right.